We debuted the solution at the latest Interconnect in Las Vegas to tremendous enthusiasm, and we have more in our audience today than any webinar in TRM history. So I imagine there will be lots of questions. We will hold an audible Q&A at the end, and I will open up your lines one by one at that time. In the meantime, as the presentation is going along, you may use your question feature to ask questions, and we'll try to answer those real-time in writing. Also, we're going to assume that most of you have a pretty decent understanding of the Maximo mobile tool, Maximo Anywhere. If this is not the case, and you want to learn more about this IBM mobile solution, please contact me, and I can put you in touch with one of our consultants. Since we do have so many new attendees in this webinar, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to TRM as a company. We were founded in 1993 and have been innovating solutions for Maximo since then. We have 3 major business lines, all focused on Maximo. These are Maximo Consulting, Maximo Configured, or our TRM software line that improves the performance and productivity of Maximo and your users, and our Maximo Cloud Solutions. In terms of Maximo Consulting, we have functional and technical experts with an industry focus in federal government, energy and utilities, oil and gas, and manufacturing. We have experts that can help design long-range strategic asset management plans or can come in and do assessments and help with things such as practical failure analysis. We're also the leaders in Maximo upgrades, implementations, consolidations, integrations, etc. Our software line includes the Rules Manager Studio suite of capabilities, Max Assist, an embedded training tool, Lockout Tagout Manager, and what you are all here to see today, Anywhere Builder. And as one of the premier Maximo Cloud providers, we offer all flavors from managed services for hosted solutions to our own hosted solution, IBM Maximo SaaS, TRM Maximo SaaS Flex Plus, to FedRAMP compliant data centers for our federal clients, and more. Okay, on to Anywhere Builder. The point behind this tool is to make IBM Maximo Anywhere easy to configure. And we learned from IBM that a configuration tool is not on the horizon for their Anywhere roadmap. So our software team has created easy buttons, drag and drop configuration, and WYSIWYG displays to make developing Maximo Anywhere intuitive. We can extend Anywhere apps without coding, and needless to say, this was designed specifically for IBM Maximo Anywhere. Some of the key features you will see in the demo and the product include assisted business logic configuration, edit and/or create custom events, step-by-step wizards to help with common configuration tasks, and the flexible addition of lookup fields. And with that brief intro, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Al Johnson for a live product demo.
Thank you, Liz. Can you hear me?
Yes, and Al, you are now presenter.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let's validate that everybody that you can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm very happy to talk to you today. I'm Al Johnson. I'm Vice President of Software Development at Total Resource Management. Been here since 1999. What you're looking at on your screen right now is obviously, for those of you familiar with Anywhere, you notice that Anywhere Builder is built in Eclipse, just like what the Worklight environment is, the mobile-first environment. So you're looking at an Eclipse plugin that does all of this work for you, that configures Anywhere. We're currently connected to our Anywhere sort of building environment, and you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner here in the configurations, we have connections to the mobile-first server, which is running all the mobile-first emulation. We have the App Center, which is the Maximo instance. So we're simultaneously connected to the building environment and to Maximo. So we query Maximo frequently and often to find out things that we need to know about building screens. So we're in a completely integrated environment here. We'll also do things, very complex things that you would have had to do ordinarily by hand, totally in an automated fashion. So we're going to start. I'm going to run through a set of features. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of buttons and wizards and things that happen and things that are capable in the product first. And then at the end here, we're going to put together a cohesive example where we're actually going to pull everything together and modify a screen, build it, change it, set some logic to it, and show it to you. So I'm going to go into the work execution application. So the first thing you'll notice is that we give you we try to give you big fuzzy buttons that let you have access to the things that are most important to you. One of the primary things is navigation. So the Start Page button, if I click it, will navigate to this application's default start page. This is a sample list item. So the first page of this work order execution application gives me a work item view. This is one item of how many work orders you have. Each work order is represented by one of these. As you can see by the words, this is a single row preview. So as I click on things like the transition, it will follow as though it were the application that we're being built. I'll open a window now that brings me over to DAS's work order details. So as I scroll through it, you notice there's a pretty good representation of how the application is going to work on the mobile device. There are lines around, and they're indicators, like the little star there. It means that there are events attached to this. There are Anywhere events that are editable for you to change, and we'll get to those in a bit. So I'm looking at this entire sort of representation of the application. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold, so I'm going to clear my throat a little frequently. So if I go to something like a lookup, the asset has a lookup. I could double click on that. Now I've opened up a lookup editor, and you notice that the lookup also is an editable entity. I can change the fields that are shown here. I can move them around. I can reposition them. I can change the return attributes that come back from the lookup. So let's drive back to the main work execution application. Again, I can start at the start page. So every item in this screen has associated with it a set of context capabilities. So there are basically menus and buttons and wizards that let you do pretty much everything. So in a text box, I can examine the properties of the text box. So you can see all of the things that were ordinarily back in the XML that need to be validated and verified are all presented for you. As you hover, the description of these things is all presented to you, so you can tell you what all these things mean in the XML. If it's a bound control to a data, it'll show you which resource and which attribute it's bound to. If it has a lookup associated with it, it will show you that. We don't have a lookup in this one. If it has a layout, you'll see the layout ID. We'll get to those, the advanced version of that in a few seconds. And here are the remainder of all the advanced sort of things like the CSS attributes, what color, you can change the colors, the text, you can change bolding, you can change the resolver classes, you can change all the JavaScript that goes behind it. It involves knowing something about Anywhere, but we'll show you a way to do that more simply later. I just wanted to point out to you that each one of these, like a button, has its own properties. And in the Advanced tab, there is the icon. So you can drive to the icon and change it if you need to, or put your own in.
Hey, Al,
yes.
Can I ask you just to slow down just a little bit? The screen's not matching as fast as you're moving.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I try to slow down. People who know me know that's very difficult. Excuse me. Okay, so some of the capabilities for manipulation in this environment. Let's say that I don't really care about, for my purposes, I care more about location than asset. So I really don't necessarily need to see asset. So I can simply do a right click and I can delete this item here. So you'll notice that asset will go away and everything will shift up. So location is now under description. Are we tracking now?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. You can move things. If you have things that you want to see in different orders, I can move the physical location up here by simply selecting the widget and saying, let me grab this handle. And I want to move this above location, so I can move it up and down. So physical location will now pop above location. So you can manipulate things up and down. Again, the little star represents that there are actually events associated with this. Events are Anywhere Builder or Anywhere capabilities. They're things like when you click on it, when it's rendered, you have all the events that are available for things that happen inside of Anywhere. So a button has these available events. You can catch when it's clicked on, when it's changed state, up or down, when the value changes in it, when it's rendered by the engine. And one of these new ones here is hidden, and hidden is actually added by us. It's not part of the Anywhere default platform, and we'll show you an example of that in a bit. A text widget, actually a container, like a group item here. So this container has the ability to have these things put in a container. So button, checkbox for a URN field, it can be data bound. A combo box, which is a small list. Directions link, which represents for mapping. Any image that you want to put in here. A hyperlink, map marker, another text widget, a text area for longer input. And you can also copy these items and make copies of them and work on the copies and change them to your heart's content. So you don't have to really recreate things from scratch. If you wanted to take something like, let me find priority. So the priority field doesn't have a lookup associated with it. So if you want to add a lookup to the priority field, it's on the menu. So every item has things on the menu that you should care about for it. So I'm going to add a lookup. I have the capability of grabbing raw Maximo data from an MBO, or I can grab things from a domain, which is a lookup already existing in Maximo. It's important to say that I'm actually going to pull a domain that I've defined in Maximo over to be the value, to be the list, the lookup list for this priority. So here are all the values, here are all the lists available, and I'm going to pick the ticket priority list and say finish. Two things are going to happen. It's going to go and open the ticket priority window. So this is the lookup associated with ticket priority. I have the capability of changing, it has value and description. If I wanted to have this lookup show me something else about what's in this record, I could very easily add that attribute to this thing. So I'll show you, I'll preview of the actual layout. So layouts are basically a way to position rows and columns inside of Anywhere's layouts, in Anywhere's items. So if I edit the layout, you'll notice I get a representation here, and this is a very simple layout. It has value and description. One row, 12 columns. This one takes up 4 columns. This one takes up 8 columns. If I wanted to add the domain ID to the list, so I wanted to see it on the list, I simply drag this. I can drag the description over here, double-click and make a new item. Green means it's unoccupied. And I can drag the domain ID into that, and I can basically modify this list. So I'm not going to change the layout, but when I do that, I can change how this thing is completely presented. I can make multiple rows, multiple columns. I can create a set of return attributes. It doesn't have to return one value. I can return 5 values for the record into the Anywhere form that it represents, that it's filling in. In this case, it's only going to be 1. So I go back to the work detail view. You notice now I have a lookup associated with it. And double-clicking it does what you think it would do. It navigates back to the editor for the lookup. So you're basically just following it around and get everything happen kind of intuitively. Go back to the work execution main page. So here are the queries that are associated with this particular item. And by the way, Andy Bengen and the lead developer and Jordan are also on the line. And you will hear them chime in from time to time, especially if I forget something, which I've been known to do.
Al, it's Liz again, just a little bit slower.
I'm sorry.
It's the screen that's not keeping up with you.
I'm sorry. So we're up at the menu now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a lot of options here. You can create a brand new query, so you can look for Anywhere clause. You can get a query that's created in Maximo and bring it over here. You can create it locally if you want to. You can move them up and down in the item and list. You can edit them and change the query associated with them. So everything available associated with the query is available here. On the right-hand side, we have the Actions menu. So the actions that are shown here are basically, they have images associated with them. So if I double-click on the plus, that's actually going to take me to whatever that plus sign represents when they push it. And in this case, it's going to be the work order, create a new work order. So this is the new work order creation screen. And like I said, I got to it by clicking on the plus sign in the main view. Let's go back. Here we are. The overflow represents, obviously, if you have a lot of things you want to do, you don't want to have 15 or 20 icons across the top. So the overflow lets you have an action that goes someplace and have a name associated, a text associated with it. And it's the same thing. You can edit them, you can add one, you can move them up and down, you can delete them. Adding a row. Let's say that I wanted to, in the work detail view, let's say I wanted to add a brand new row to this. I can simply, let me explain what I've got here. I've got the UI Explorer. The UI Explorer is telling me here, the blue represents all of the actual page components of this application. So all of the screens and everything pointing to everything else, they're all here. As you navigate, we just open up an editor for them. We go below those, the dialogues that are being represented in this application. So work order started dialog. So Here's the dialog for representing what pops up when you get the work order has been started. The cancel and the OK button, you'll notice again, the star represents that there's an event associated with it. And the event in Maximo is going to be a click event. So if I click that, now those of you who already know something about Anywhere know that when you take a look at the classes associated, the JavaScript associated with these events in Maximo, they tend to look pretty big. The actual event class for the entire thing looks like this. I'm going to wait for that to settle down. So this is a very long script. Every event has a huge dojo script associated with it that can be really daunting, especially if you're just starting out. You can't figure out where in God's name you need to go in here to change things to make events happen. So when you add an event in Anywhere Builder, we pare it down to the bare minimum. This is what's going to fire when this thing is clicked, and you can make the modifications here. And we've already seen the lookup editors, but you can see on when I go down to the bottom here, they're all my lookups, status lookup, task lookup, and they're all editable. I can modify them and change them in all the fields that go with them. So adding a row is pretty simple. I can do things like, if I like the way this row looks and I want to use it something similar for an attribute, I can do one of two things. I can copy it. I can make a copy of this item below. So I'm going to append a copy of this group item below, and then I can change the attribute associated with it. So let's do that. So now I have two work order numbers. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So we've seen the UI Explorer. Equivalent to that is the Data Explorer. Excuse me. This is the representation of all of the data resources currently available to this Anywhere application. For those of you in the complex details, it represents all the OSLC data that's coming down from Maximo. Configuring this can be very daunting if you don't know what you're doing. And it can be, and again, there's a lot of XML edits, many things you have to do behind the scenes to get this stuff to work. So if I open the work order resources, let's say now I have two work orders because I copied this one. Let's say I want to bring the failure code in. I could just simply drag it, and I'm going to drop it over top of the duplicate that I made of work order. I'm sorry, I copied the wrong one. I'm going to append the copy of this. So I drop it over status description, and I'm done. So drag drop, if I wanted in a new column, I wanted to add something like work order class, if I wanted to drag it into here and just make it an entry, I can simply drag it between the two. Okay, I'm going to slow that down because I know I'm just flying around. So there's drop it on work order, drop it above work order, drop it between failure code and work order. So I should see whoa class, and there you go. And it does the right thing. It gets the title, and this is completely modifiable by going into the properties. If I want the class to transition, let's say I want this, this item to have a transition like over here, like the failure code and status have. So go back to the UI Explorer. Let's say the page that I want to go to, and this is going to make no sense. I'm going to say I want to go to, let's pick one that's relatively, let's say calibration point details. I'm going to drag this view over, and I'm going to drop it onto this item. And it's going to ask me, would you like this item to transition to this view? And I'm going to say yes. So now I have a transition. And when I double click it, it's going to do what you think it should do. It's going to navigate to that page. There you go. And again, open and available for editing. So that's kind of a lot of the features. And by the way, if you drag another view, let's say you go back to the main work list items view, to the shortcut menu. Let's say that I just want to have a shortcut to jump to something like I want to look at the asset from here. I can drag that view over to the overflow. And when I drop it on the overflow, it'll ask me for a label. I'm going to say go to assets and hit OK. And I now have that item, and that menu is now part of the application. All the XML changes, all the stuff that's needed to do this thing to make it work is all done behind the scenes. And when I double click on it, it's going to navigate to that page. So that's kind of like a whole ton of features all over the place. Excuse me. Go to work order detail view. So in terms of events, so you notice these are all the events available on a text box. This is a text box that represents a data element. These are all standard Maximo anywhere out of the box. Click on change, on status change, or render, validate. These four below here are a little special. So required, Anywhere has the concept of required and read-only, but the concept that Anywhere has is always required or always read-only or not always required and not always read-only. So they're only binary conditions. We add conditionally require, conditionally read-only, and we add two new ones, hiding and styling. So you can actually hide a component on this page, just like in Rules Manager, if you're familiar with that product that we make. You can actually hide something on the page depending on who's logged in, what group membership they have, or another value on the field. So let's say I have a checkbox that says, has environmental concerns. I can actually check that box and have the Anywhere application remotely, and in the disconnected mode, it will display a piece of a form that will let me fill in the environmental information. When I uncheck it, it will disappear. And we make these work in the way. Let's do a styling event. So I can change the colors. If I want to say change the color for something when priority is 1, I want this red. Priority is 2, I want it to be green. I can make a new styling event on this status. So pick new styling event. Now I jump to the styling editor. So here's a preview of what the text box is going to look like. So let's say I want to have a a background of yellow, and I want the text color to be red. So that would be the style I would apply. How I want to apply it. This condition down here represents, if you return true from this condition, it means to make this style apply, make it yellow and red. So you get to put whatever condition you want in here. You can write business logic, and it works in connected mode and disconnected mode. So you can have things that actually react on the remote device while it's not connected. So you can hide things and change things and style things. So, and as is typical of things we've done in the past, you'll notice that if I'm going to hit Control Space in this editor, it's a little piece of JavaScript. So we give you content completion, just like we always have in Rules Manager. And we have available to us the user's context that they're associated with it, and that means the user's name, the group memberships they belong to. We can check sites and orgs. We give you the resource in play. In this case, it's going to be a work order resource. So if I can return, I want it to be red if, let's do this, if resource dot, and when you hit the dot, you get what you expect. You get a complete listing of everything in that resource. So I can say, I want it to be highlighted like this if the priority is greater than 2. And I don't want to say if, I want to say return. So I want to return a true or false. So if the resource priority is greater than 2, that whatever control is handled by this condition will turn off this color, otherwise it will be the default colors. And you can add all kinds of business logic here to make that thing react the way you want it to. And I'm not going to say that. Okay, so I think I've hit all the major features. Jordan, am I doing okay with features?
Yeah, I believe I didn't see anything that you missed. You kind of went through them, and we're going to see a lot more as you actually put it all to practice.
Yeah, so the last part of this presentation is we're going to actually put together a real example. We're going to modify an application and actually see it change and preview it in the work by preview. So I'm going to go to, let's look through all these windows so I can not worry about clicking around. I'm going to go down to service request. So SR, here's another type of double-click service request. I get the main thing for start page, import Maximo field, import Maximo domain, and preview. So I go to start page for service request. This is a navigation view. So the work item view you saw was basically the first screen that comes up is, here's a list of the work immediately. The second you go into the app, all you see is a list of work. IBM got a lot of requests from customers to say, I would just like a front screen that goes to 3 main kinds of things. I want to do create a new request, or I want to look at my requests. That's the first place I want them to start. So this is the navigation pane. So the scenario I'm going to give to you is that I have an internal employee, and I have contractor employees. I have one particular employee who has actually got more privileges than the other, and that user is Wilson. So I want Wilson to have some extra capability, and nobody else can see that capability except Wilson. So let's say that I want to be able to look at a different list of requests. So I'm going to use this as a template. So this basically goes to a page that gives me a list of reported SRs. So I want to do this, but I want to do it for a different list of things for this one individual. So I'm going to copy this item below. So I'm going to use this as my template. And to give you some capability, some real easy capability features, this is a regular operating system explorer that has a directory with 3 images that I've dropped in there. So I've got 3 different images. I've changed the list request to red to make it look important. So I'm just going to drag this file from the file system, and I'm going to drop it onto this button, onto this image. And there you have it. I've changed it. It's copied it into the Anywhere deployment. It's registered it, and it's made it part of this component, and none of the XML editing you had to do is there. It's just done now. So I'm going to change my request list text to say high priority for the internal employee Wilson. So, and remember, what this goes to by default is my reported SRs. I want a different presentation. I want to see more information for the internal people. So I'm going to take the screen that it used to go to, and I'm going to copy it. So I'm copying the entire page now, and I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to give it a different name. So this is important SRs. And you notice it becomes part of my build space. So I want this high priority item, group item, when I click on it, I want it to transition to this view. So I'm just simply going to drag it and drop it. So done doing that, now I'm going to click it and follow it. I want to change a few things about this to make it so that I know it's different. So I'm going to change the properties on the view itself from my reported SRs to high priority internal SRs. And let's say, excuse me, let's say this is interesting. I want to add some more information to this field that only internal people can see. So this user, I want to have, let's say, for now, I'm just going to drop site and org in here because they're available to me. So I'm going to go to the layout editor. So this is laid out in rows and columns. This editor represents the presentation as the elements are laid out. So you can see there's sort of there's a representation in here of how they look. I want to add 2 fields, site and org. I don't want to drag them into any of these positions because it's probably going to be too busy. So I'm going to add an extra row by just changing the row count from 3 to 4. So now I have 4 rows. If I double click in any empty spot, it will fill the spot with a new item. Then I can drag that handle and make it whatever size I want to. Make sure we're tracking, Liz.
You're doing fine now.
Okay. I'm going to make a second one for org. I'm going to drag that over here a little bit, and I'm going to pull the button down so that it stays centered vertically. So I've created 2 positions. The button's actually not used, so it doesn't really matter. But I've created 2 positions here. And by the way, you can drag and drop in here as well. So I want to take the site ID. I'm going to drag it, drop the site ID. Yep. I want to do that. I want to do the org ID. Yep, I want to do that. And when I say I'm done, it's all committed to the presentation. So now, this is what the internal people will see with a bit of extra information in it. Now when I navigate from high priority SRs, double click on where each item goes, I'm going to go to service request details. So here, I'm going to bring something in. There's a field available in the Maximo data set called internal priority. I want to see the internal priority if I'm internal to the company, and I don't want anyone else to see it. So I'm going to add internal priority to this screen. And it doesn't exist in the current Anywhere app. So I'm going to go back to the main service request screen, and I'm going to import a Maximo field. So click. This reaches out to Maximo. It's giving me a representation of every bit of Maximo data. Every MBO, every piece of available data is here. There's a color code that represents what these mean. So the current default is it's going to default to the service request resource, which is fine. If I click on a relationship that doesn't exist, I get a message down here that says, well, this is not currently part of the object structure in Maximo. So if you do this, we're going to make all kinds of modifications and commit those to Maximo. What that means is all of the horror of configuring the XML, configuring Maximo's data objects, data structures, and getting the RDF files, and I'll just stop there with all the detail, all the things you would have to do to configure a data source are simply not necessary for you to do. You simply point and click, and it does all that work for you. So I'm going to go to the service request. I'm going to pick a field that is currently in Maximo, but is not in my application. The color here means that these are already in the application. So I'm going to pick internal priority. I'm going to say next, and you'll get a message here. If you're going to make a Maximo modification, it'll say you're going to commit this to Maximo. Are you sure? But I'm just bringing in the field locally, so I'm going to say yes, and I brought in the field. So now it's available in the Data Explorer. So I've added internal priority to my data story. This is basically everything that's available in it now. I've just added this. So if I go back to my SR detail, I want to bring the internal priority field in. So after bringing it in from Maximo, I simply drag it and drop it where I want it to go. Say, I'd probably like that to be above the description, so I'm just going to move that item up in one position. And I'm done. So let me go back. Let's start again from service request. I go to the main service request page. I go to my new page. And now I'm at high priority. Now what I need, the last thing I need to change here is I have the queries. The query is still the default, give me all the SRs. Well, I created a new lookup in Maximo that gives me the high priority SRs. So I want to add a query for that in this menu. So I'm going to say create query. They'll say you want a save query or a custom query. I'm going to go with a save query because it's already in Maximo. I'm going to say high priority. I'm going to say next. And here are the available lookups. And the one that I configured earlier inside of Maximo, and I did this through Maximo's default Maximo lookup configuration. It's high priority. Here's the where clause that goes with it. I'm going to say finish. And now it's in my menu. I no longer care about this default one for the advanced user, so I'm going to delete it. I am sure. And I'm going to move this guy up to the first position, so high priority SRs. And records with errors will only show up, by the way, if there are records with errors. Otherwise, you'll only see this one query. So now I've got the query. I saved the query. Excuse me. Now I'm basically going to save this application. We're going to take a look at it in the preview. Okay, back to the main screen for service request. So we've imported the Maximo field. We've made a domain. We've navigated the start page. So I'm going to do launch and preview. This will cause Anywhere, the mobile first environment, to build the entire environment associated with this application, get it ready to roll. It will start a local server, and it will bring up a browser preview to show me what this application is going to look like. So this takes about a minute and a half tops. And we're always dancing on the high wire because we're doing all this live. None of this is canned.
Hey Al, this is Jordan. While this is being built, I've been answering questions, and I wanted to make sure everyone keeps continuing to ask questions as we're doing the webinar. Some of the questions we've been asked were, were really appropriate. Like something we didn't point out is when we add a field to the system, do we also add it to the object structure in Maximo? And the answer is yes. We add that appropriately. Just we do it automatically for you, so you don't have to walk through all the steps, go back into Maximo, change the object structure, come back down to Maximo Anywhere Builder, run all these tasks, and then bring the field over. We automate all that for you.
Yeah, I'm actually now that I'm waiting, I'm actually scrolling through the questions. I can see them.
Yeah, another question we got was what version of Eclipse does this work with? The answer is we work with whatever version of Eclipse the platform uses. So in the case of Maximo as it stands right now, or Maximo Anywhere, it's on Eclipse Kepler, and we're a plugin that builds in with that. I'll let you get back to doing the demo.
Yeah, we're contingent. You deliver the mobile first platform to Eclipse, and whatever version mobile first supports, we support, and then we're on top of that.
Correct.
Okay, so here's the preview window. Basically, it's all done. It popped up Chrome, and it said, here's your preview. So I'm going to log into user Wilson. Wilson is the one that can see everything. You know what? Did I have my condition?
Yeah, you have not put the condition in yet, so you may want to go ahead and drop that in.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. See, you're supposed to catch me on these things, guys. Okay, let's go back here. I apologize. I did forget step. So the last thing I needed to do was I need to set a condition on this. So I'm going to add a hidden event. So when is this hidden? And it will be hidden if user.name is not equal to Wilson. And I'm not going to say if. I'm going to say return. So return true or false. So if the user is not Wilson, this will not be hidden. If the user is, it will be hidden. If the user is Wilson, then they will see this. I'm going to save that, and we're going to have to burn another minute and a half there, Jordan.
My worst nightmare.
Okay, I have saved it. Let's make sure my incognito window's here. Yep. And go back and preview it again. So we have another minute and a half to go.
Yeah, one of the things to point out with those event editors is that we designed it dynamically. Al kind of pointed out that each element has their own Maximo Anywhere events that can fire on, and we've developed the tool so that it adapts to whichever type of control you want to place an event on. So in this realm, you're creating an event on a group item or a navigation item. I think it's a group item. And so you have only methods that are available to you in that circumstance. The luxury in that is that it helps eliminate any errors that could be made by saying, oh, I think I want this on a render event, or maybe do I want this on a click event or an on-change event. We go ahead and provide you the appropriate list so you don't run into any risk of choosing an event that doesn't exist for that type of control. Hopefully that isn't too technical. Let's see, another, I hate silence, obviously, which is why I keep chiming in when it gets quiet and we're waiting. Some of the other functionality that we built in that we don't get a chance to to really delve into while we're doing this is our ability to totally design brand new views from scratch as well. So you can use the layout editor and the our ability to add, and a wizard really, a wizard that creates views to walk users through that process so that you can create a view and associate with whatever data you need, and you can build all of that on the fly in a matter of minutes with our Anywhere Builder. And it looks like our preview finished, Al.
Yep. Let me grab the preview window. It's a Chrome window. Here we go. And bring it over. Okay.
I wonder if our screen is frozen.
Are you not seeing it?
I just see the start menu.
Really? Do me a favor. Take it away from me again and give it back to me. Apologies for the technical hiccup.
And here you go.
There we go. I hit the clear screen button and it sort of went wonky on me.
There we go. Yeah, we see it now.
Okay, so the Chrome browser popped up for the preview, and I'm going to log into Wilson, which is the privileged person. Yes, I want to load lookup data, and you see that I see all three. And when I click on, are we seeing it?
Yes.
Okay. Click on high priority. You notice I went to my new view with site and org in it. So all the modifications you saw me make are now in the deployed application. If I log out of the application, we have another user that's able to use SR that is not Wilson, and that is CS Wilson. Sure. And you notice that CS Wilson sees the out-of-the-box application because they're not Wilson. So again, hiding, required, read-only, and styling events can all be associated with users and groups of users, and all of this works in disconnected mode as well as connected mode. So you can make an application that is adaptive with some business logic and that'll actually help your users and direct them toward what you want them to do. I think that's pretty much it from my end. You want to throw it up for the questions, Liz?
I do. They've been coming in fast and furious online behind the scenes, so I'm sure there's tons out there more. So I just lowered everyone's hand, so if it was up previously, you're going to need to re-raise it, and I'm going to look for hands up on the webinar panel and open up your line. So bear with me one sec while I look for those hands. So everyone's gotten shy. They've texted in all of their questions. Oh, except, here we go, Dennis. I'm going to go ahead and open up your line.
So with the Anywhere Builder, will it work seamlessly with Rules Manager together in the same Eclipse environment?
Yes. It's just another plugin. It's just another feature plugin, just like the Rules Manager Builder is.
The only difference is that right now, Anywhere Builder is associated, or the mobile first plugin, it only works with Kepler, and Rules Manager currently really is, the latest version is on Luna. Once IBM updates to the latest version of Eclipse, then they could commingle in one Eclipse environment, but our plugin technically can work in both realms.
We're constrained to work, because the Anywhere Builder has to work in conjunction with the mobile first plugin. So wherever the mobile first plugin runs, we.
Great.
We had a question. If you could move the text over from the button, and I said yes. You could probably do that on the fly if you wanted to show an example of that.
Explain to me what you mean.
I'm assuming that he wanted to move the text to the other side of the image that you placed.
On this guy?
Yeah, so just re-editing the layout essentially.
Oh, yeah, okay. What's that layout? Yeah, I can simply, I have horizontal and vertical lines here, so I can tell I want it to horizontal line to the right. And since they're using the same layout, they both went. This one's using a different layout, and I can do the same thing here. So I can edit the layout. I can say move this guy to the right, and I'm using keyboard shortcuts because I can. Done.
Great, perfect. Here's another one. Does the Anywhere Builder support the electronic signature?
We do. I'm sorry. I never know who's going to answer. Yeah, Anywhere Builder is not going to get in front of that or anything like that. So if you have that built into Maximo Anywhere in the first place, it'll still work. We won't impact that at all. I think that's the answer to the question.
Excellent. That's easy. So here's another easy one, hopefully. How do you initially load all the applications into the builder?
Well, you do it through Eclipse. You basically, you make a new workspace, and then you import the project just like you would in Eclipse. So where's that at, Andy? I always lose this. Import.
Yeah, so basically it's the same idea. When you start developing with Anywhere, part of the instructions IBM provides you is to import the Maximo Anywhere project folder, which was installed by the Maximo Anywhere installer, into a new Eclipse workspace. When you open up the Anywhere Builder perspective, which Al has opened up in the upper right, it automatically picks up all applications you have configured in Anywhere and Maximo Anywhere. So if you get a new version, say you go from 7.5 to 7.6, new applications were added, Anywhere Builder will automatically pick those up and display them to you in the Anywhere Explorer on the left.
Perfect, easy. So I think this one is a yes also, an easy one, but let me throw it out there. So Anywhere Builder does not add anything into the Anywhere code that requires an Anywhere Builder license on the mobile client. Oh, Jordan, you just answered this.
Yeah, sorry, I was typing that answer as we were going. Yeah, that answer is correct. In the end, you don't need any licensing on the mobile first side or in your Maximo side to do our product. We build into the Anywhere directory. We enhance it by adding scripts and functionality that aren't native in Anywhere with our plugin that allow you to do a lot more functionality and a lot more scripting and enhance the product through ways that are not easy or existing at all as it stands today.
Perfect. So I think this is a similar question. Are there any components to be installed in the Anywhere server side, both mobile first and also Maximo Anywhere folder?
No.
That's out of the box.
All that stuff stays out of the box. We developed it like that on purpose so that upgrades, we don't impact anything. We only live in your Eclipse environment.
Excellent. So sorry, these questions are coming in fast over text. So here's one. Can you link an event from work execution to bring up the asset information in Asset Data Manager?
So the question really is, you can't necessarily combine the apps. That's something that's on IBM's roadmap down the line. So yeah, Asset Data Manager is a separate app than Work Execution. Now what you can have is kind of a parallel screen that mirrors the data and some of even the functionality if it's true to the core intent of the application. You can add that inside of Work Execution, but it wouldn't just directly take you to Asset Data Manager.
If you were at Interconnect and you were at Dave's presentation this year, you'll notice that one of the bullet points he had was cross-application calling, and that's actually something they're going to get done this year.
Perfect. All right, so more text questions. Oh, sorry, Jordan.
The second that Anywhere gets a new function or control, we add it. So we'll reflect what they do going forward, and we'll try to make it as easy as we can, as always.
That's exactly what the next question was going to be. What impact does Anywhere or mobile first upgrades or patches from IBM have on this builder?
I'm going to let Jordan take that one.
Well, in the end, there is none. At its most basic, there is none. Now, when they introduce new functionality, or if they bring in something cool, some new widget that isn't available, we will make that available, and we will do our what we do development-wise to make sure that you can take full control of any of the new functionality that they add. But at its most basic, no, you can upgrade all you want on the Maximo Anywhere side. It won't impact our product at all, or your usage of our product at all.
I was giving you a chance to plug your migration editor.
Oh, there is that whole realm too. Yes. I'm sorry. Al gave me a chance to pat myself on the back. But yeah, we did develop functionality inside of here that kind of tracks changes and and allows you to apply those to upgrades so that any of the changes you make with our Anywhere Builder are easily relocated to an upgraded version of the apps for you, including the JavaScript, including any XML changes, all of the changes that you make with our tool. We will allow you to bring those forward just by following a wizard.
Easy, easy, great. All right, they're still coming in fast, so we'll do a couple more. And also, if someone wants to ask directly, hands up again, and I'll open up your line. So here's one. Does the application rebuild every time you save a file in your project? Anywhere does this, and it's very time-consuming and annoying.
Well, you know, that's something that we saw on day one. And if you look at your screen, you see where my mouse is? That button, Auto Build. If you click that and turn that on, it will do what Anywhere always does, which is that maddening rebuild everything every time you make a change. When you turn it off, it doesn't. So I've been doing this entire thing with Auto Build off, and when I go back and I'm finished with what I want to do, I hit Launch and Preview or I hit Build and Deploy. It's only going to build the applications that I've changed and push the applications that I've changed at the time where I push this button. Up until then, I'm making edits madly and having a great old time without having to worry about all that background stuff.
Yeah, we eliminated that, as Al said, day one.
We're as annoyed by that as you were on day one.
It's perfect. It's almost like these questions are set up, but they're not. So here's another one coming in. How do you debug?
Debugging can happen a few ways. The most basic is as you have to debug any web apps, JavaScript is in a browser, and that's how we currently are doing it today. So you would debug your script in the browser just by hitting F12 and stepping through your script. We could show an example if you want to go that far, but I don't know if we want to get that technical into it.
It is JavaScript. It is JavaScript, and JavaScript is, and Dojo complicates JavaScript pretty well. But, I mean, we use Chrome. Everybody really should use Chrome to debug because you have just a ton of tools in the browser for stepping through JavaScript code.
Yeah, we've gotten this answer at Interconnect, and we have a debugger in Rules Manager Studio for when you're developing Rules Manager rules. That is not something we have added yet to the Anywhere Builder. We'll let you know if we go that direction, though.
Oh, great. Okay, here's another one. Does the TRM Form Builder, i.e. Anywhere Builder, connect through the Anywhere-specific apps only? For instance, can the service request application speak to Maximo oil and gas application incident?
It can, definitely. That's another one of the key things that we wanted to make sure we added. So any of those fields that you've put in, or what is it, a vertical add-on in Maximo has created, any of those fields, any of those new MBO sets or relationships are all available with the builder, so you can just easily, just as Al did before, you can easily choose the MBO set, choose the field, and drag and drop it onto your application.
Now, I will give this one. I will throw this one cautionary note out there, and this is in discussions with IBM. We're very close with the Anywhere development team. They're very helpful to us in terms of getting early previews and telling us what's going on with the product. And one of the concerns they have is you have to be concerned when you do things like that about your licensing. So if you use, everybody knows the rules about Maximo. If you use an application which is beyond its business purpose, it sometimes requires a license. So when you do things like that, you should probably consult IBM and find out if it's within the scope. Otherwise, you may have to have additional licenses for Anywhere itself. It has nothing to do with the builder.
Yeah, I think generally if it's a transportation field that's been added to the transportation work order application, then I don't think there would be any problem in bringing that functionality down because that's still within the intent of the application.
Right. If you have a whole custom application and you want to bring it down and build an Anywhere app for it, you probably have to talk about licensing.
Correct. Correct.
Cool. All right, so we're moving along. Still questions are coming in. Here's one. How do you migrate configurations from development to test prod environments when these involve modifications to the OSLC objects, structures, and resources? A little technical question there.
So this is kind of more of a question on infrastructure and how you have your apps defined. So I guess I'm going to ask back. Does whoever has asked that question, they have a separate mobile first web server for I'm trying to think, for development and also for staging and for test? If that's the case, right now your solution would be probably best almost to use our tool to apply those changes individually when you're bringing over a big MBO set. For the most part, when we've seen our customers, the way they have their mobile first server set up is they only have one server, and they test their apps in that server, like in Eclipse. You test, you build your apps there. Then when you're ready to move the apps to production, you actually deploy it out to your mobile first server, which then the users would get. So you might have a test and stage Maximo environment, but you only have one mobile first server environment. If that's different, then we will have to plan accordingly if that's something that more users have. But as far as we've seen, the general server structure for Anywhere has just been one Anywhere server for an environment.
And Bruno,
hopefully
that was
your question.
I was going to say, Bruno, that was your question. Your audio pin's not enabled. If you want to expand on that real quickly, just do #223#. If not, I think we're going to move along. I'm looking for questions up. We still have lots of text questions asking for the recording of this, which everyone will get shortly after this presentation, and pricing and licensing, and we will refer you to the appropriate BD rep for those kind of questions, and I'll provide all that contact information shortly after this webinar. Real quick, Dennis, I see your hands up one more time. Did you have another question?
I just want to make sure I understood what Jordan was saying. So from my understanding of what you said, basically the majority of people that you see using Anywhere are with your product usually will just use like the launch and preview to do their final QA and test before they push it to build and deploy to prod?
Yeah, and you can build the apps there and move them to a device, even manually. If you use the mobile first app server, you can upload an application to it and not have it be available to users if you want to test it on a device as well.
You can basically sideload the application to any device.
Oh yeah.
And run it to make sure it runs before you deploy it to the actual store.
That help, Dennis?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, excellent. With that last question, we are going to go ahead and wrap up this webinar. Again, I will be sending a link to the recording, the intro slides if anyone wants them. They're kind of brief. We'll get those out to you as well. And we'll also document this Q&A. It was really lively in the background, lots of good questions and answers, and provide that information on our website along with upcoming how-to videos on YouTube and all the good marketing collateral around this. And we hope to see everyone on our next webinar. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, questions that weren't answered, we will answer, and they'll be sent afterwards. So any questions that didn't get answered, we will answer them, and you can get that afterwards.
Absolutely. Thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. Bye.